Hey everybody, welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news and race reviews. My name is Gabe.
Vroom vroom. Idris, y'all. What up?
Vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom vroom. You make my heart go zoom zoom zoom. My Formula One girl.
When was the last time somebody made like a driving song that was like a hit? The last big one I could think of was that Rihanna song, you know?
Oh, shut up and
Looking for,
drive.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
actually, all right. So shout out to all my my Disney Channel kids out there, my fellow Disney Channel kids, because that's a Xenon 21st Century Girl throwback. That might be really fun to do if we make a cover of that, but just with Formula One lyrics.
mhm.
I think that would sell.
I think we have a gift for parody. I think we can
Yeah,
probably do it.
yeah, we could do it. It's like
Um,
hotcakes.
yeah. um, Well, one thing I did want to mention, everybody who's listening, if you have not gotten a chance to listen to our interview episode with our friend Alanis King, I would highly suggest that you go and do that because it was a real fun time.
Absolutely.
It was a really fun episode, and it was a little different for us because really we were just like talking about NASCAR and just getting a lot of info that we didn't really think or consider of before. And yeah, NASCAR is such a wild, like, just ramshackle, like, race discipline with
Yeah.
just like a bunch of hidden secret engineering, like, kind of just
Mm-hmm.
sprinkled within it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was really wild to listen to all of her stories and stuff. She's got some good insight. She talks about her experience as a spotter, which was fantastic. So, yeah, highly recommend you check out that episode if you have
Mm-hmm.
not.
And
Um,
also, I would just plug her channel here. Check her out on YouTube, Alanis King. Subscribe to her content because she actually has a video about that spotter experience, and it's hilarious.
mhm,
She's a wonderful human being, and
yeah.
yeah, just support her and her content,
Mhm.
and check out the
Speaking of
episode. It's really good.
Yeah, and speaking of wonderful human beings, happy birthday,
Oh, wah
Idris.
wah.
Let's see if the thumbs work. Do the thumbs
Well, we
work? Yeah,
turned.
they do. Look at that. Oh,
You know what's funny? I thought we like deliberately turned all this off. Does it work for
we
me?
definitely did, but I definitely
No.
did, but it still
Yeah.
didn't take.
I
So,
think I think my settings were off for that, so that's why it's not seeing my
what happens
thumbs.
when I do thumbs down? Is there like a thing for thumbs? Oh, it's rain.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It would have been hilarious had it thrown like tomatoes though at the screen.
Man, that's trippy. That's really
Yeah.
trippy.
No, I appreciate it,
Okay.
bro. I appreciate it. I am now 33.
Hmm.
33. It's pretty cool.
Good
Working
number.
on year 34 now, so yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, guys. And shout out to
It's a
my
good
mom.
no.
Shout out,
Shout
mom.
out to your mom. Um, Yeah, well, it's funny how much how different things become once you start to enter your 30s, and you know, things about you change, um,
Your knees
and
creak.
like, and that's why it's so crazy to me that you see somebody like Fernando Alonso who's
Oh my God.
43
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like just signing a new contract,
Mm-hmm.
still beating his teammate, which we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He has a teammate?
oh yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
thought I thought
What was
Aston Martin was
his?
the only grid team on the grid that had one driver, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
they might as well have one driver because one of them is not doing anything.
And
Um,
pissing off Danny Ricardo. That's what he's
yeah,
doing.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Yeah, I mean, well, let's just dive right into it. We're here talking about the Chinese Grand Prix 2024.
Yes.
Um, you
Ni
know,
hao, Ni hao
yes,
Shanghai Grand Prix. Actually, what's the name of the track? I don't even know.
I think it's this. Isn't it the Shanghai International Circuit?
You know what? I think it is. I think it is, good sir. Yes, it is the Shanghai International Circuit.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember them hearing it. It's
yeah,
ingrained into my brain.
yeah,
We've had a lot of awesome races here.
yes,
I'm glad that it's back, but
absolutely.
like Nico Rosberg had, I think he had his first win at the Chinese Grand Prix, um, and he has had a lot of success here.
Mm,
Had a lot of really amazing races in the past. I actually went back and I started watching the 2004 Chinese Grand Prix on the F1 app because it
Mm,
was the first time
mm-hmm.
they ever did it. It was also, fun fact, the first time they ever did team radio during a broadcast.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
that was really interesting to see. But man, oh, hearing those V10s rip around that
Oh yeah.
track, man, that was exciting.
It's like,
Also these narrower cars.
just like oh
Yeah.
yeah, the RPM that it
Oh
hits.
man.
Oh,
You get the what is the what's the name of that effect when it's like sound is further away from you
oh, the
coming, so
Doppler
it's like
effect.
higher pitch. The Doppler
Yeah,
effect.
yeah.
The Doppler effect in those cars is like really
Oh,
anxiety inducing, but
yeah,
it's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, really interesting race, and honestly, like watching that also made me long for a time where we have narrower F1 cars again.
Yes, yes,
you
yeah.
know,
We've been saying this for like the problem with modern F1 is the cars are just way too big.
they're too big, they're too
They're way
heavy.
too long. They're too wide. They're too heavy. Like,
Yeah.
make them light and throw in some monster engines. There we go. Problem solved.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, like
You want your
you could
overtaker?
have
There you go.
monster engines and also have a hybrid system. There's nothing
Yeah,
stopping you from having a V8 hybrid. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
you can do it.
yeah.
But who
That's
knows? I mean,
yeah,
whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do. So,
yeah.
yeah, well, this weekend was a sprint race weekend, right? So we had one free practice and then we had
Yes.
sprint qualifying, sprint, regular qualifying, and then the regular race.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a lot.
why? What happened during the practice there, Idris? Why was that worth watching?
So so I missed it, but I woke up because I'm Eastern time zone. So I wake up and I'm like checking out the Formula One subreddit and I'm like, oh yeah, what happened during practice? Why is the grass on fire? The grass
Yeah,
is caught on fire from the sparks coming from the bottom of the skid plates from the cars just driving by. It was just that dry or that like that hot of material that it was able
see,
to just combust the grass. That's crazy.
but that's the thing. It didn't look that dry, and it was like not raining that long ago,
So
right?
was
It
the
was
grass
green.
painted? Was the grass painted? The
That
grass might
was
have been
my
painted.
thought. My thought was that either they painted the grass or
Mhm.
they had been spraying a chemical on the track because they had resurfaced the track
That's true.
and they sprayed a chemical on
They
the
painted
track.
it. They painted the track effectively,
They
right?
painted the
They
track.
didn't
Okay.
really resurface it. Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say because whatever they did to put on the surface was supposed to make it more greasy or it was supposed to make it more grippy,
Mm-hmm.
which we saw the horrible results
We'll
once it
see.
started raining.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like everyone was like sliding around. But my thought was maybe somebody accidentally dumped a bucket of the paint or something. Not I mean not that there's guys out there with like
Yeah, yeah,
things like
but they're just like,
paint. um but that's the only thing I could think of because there was no other reason for that to say. I mean, how many circuits did they drive? I mean, they drive out in like the deserts,
yeah,
like they drive over
Zandvoort,
grass all the
like,
time,
yeah,
Zandvoort.
yeah,
Like, how is it that something else has not caught on fire by sparks from a car? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah.
I don't know
I
why
mean,
that would be a thing.
that's a good theory about the comment, like the repainting, whatever it is, whatever that chemical constituent was that might have caused that issue. But yeah, well, yeah, we'll come back to the track thing, especially when we get to quali. But what was what was one of the highlights from FP1?
The one that
Your world favorite
well,
driver.
yeah, the one that everyone kept referencing, even when he was just completely failing throughout the entire Grand Prix, was Lance Stroll being the fastest in that practice session, right? Everyone was just like, oh my God, Lance was the fastest in practice one. And like throughout the race, it was just like, the man who was on top in free practice one is now. And I'm like, why do you guys keep bringing that up?
You know what?
Like, how many times have people been in the top of pre practice one
Yeah.
and it means nothing? Like,
I think they're leaning in. They know the Formula One meme culture exists at this point, right? So like Martin
yeah,
Brundle,
maybe.
yeah, he's gonna cash in his chips on that.
I just, I don't know. Like, frat practice is always up in the air. Like, it's never
Yeah.
completely indicative of what it's actually going to be during the race because
Hmm.
teams run simulations. They won't run and they'll run different fuel levels, fuel rates. Like, they'll do all sorts of different stuff. They're not competitively trying to put out a competitive time. They're just trying to
Right.
work on consistency. So yeah, okay, good for
Yeah.
him. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
Hmm.
fine, but like why were they harping on it throughout the entire race? I don't understand. But
Hmm.
anyway, that was just the first two things to happen that were just weird
Yeah.
this weekend for
Of
for
many things.
this Grand
Of
Prix.
many things.
Yeah. Um Well, like I said, we had a qualifying. We had a sprint race weekend, right? So you had a
Hmm.
qualifying for the sprint. Now that was an interesting experience.
Yeah,
Not only
yeah,
because our we had once again the track set on fire
dude.
again. I just
Effectively, what I'm interpreting from this is that the Shanghai International Circuit is like the air nomads and their air islands, right? And the Fire Nation is just like, yo, we got the eclipse, y'all. Let's go. Let's burn this place to the ground.
it's like the F1 cars are firebenders. They're like bending the fire as they drive past it. Like is that what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Who
we have
who
just Prince Zuko in the Ferrari, you know?
who? Oh, is Zuko Stroll?
No.
Without
No.
the redemption arc, like let's just look at this instance, right?
No,
Like
if anything, I
episode
would say
one.
Zuko is Azula, if anything. Like, because Azula has a lot of. I mean, yeah, Azula is powerful, but she's
Hmm.
also just wants to, just wants to be the best and like, be the Fire Lord and like,
Hmm.
but she doesn't like she can't put in. It's like she
She
has
doesn't have the
earned the spot.
qualities
She doesn't have the
to be the
qualities
leader.
that she needs it,
Mm.
but like her dad's really powerful, and so he like kind of like prefer like gives her preferential treatment.
Hmm.
Well, all that stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say I don't know. Like, I guess if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna go down this path,
Let's do it.
ooh, man. Well, let me think. Who would be Aang then in this scenario?
I mean, Ong.
I mean, like, it's tough because it's like
If you
it
know,
could
you
be
know.
it's somebody that's universally liked, but it also is a bit of an old soul, fish out of water. Um,
I mean, it feels like Lewis.
it could be.
Maybe Zhou Guan Yu.
Mm, I don't know. I mean, I think like Lewis has had a tremendous. I almost feel like Lewis is maybe like
You're not gonna
who
say
was
Uncle
the
Iroh.
fire. No, who was the firebender before Aang? Like the Avatar before Aang?
Oh, Avatar Roku.
Avatar Roku.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like
get
he was Avatar Roku. You know what I mean? It's like because he had all the success, he had all the
it.
power,
Yeah.
and then like right at the end, he had to defend his mountain, and then he just got consumed and betrayed, and
Mm-hmm.
like that feels like the Hamilton arc.
Mm.
Um,
Betrayed by Todo. Lewis, you should have expected this.
is Logan Sargent the Cabbages guy, or who is that? Who's the Cabbages guy? Oh my cabbages!
Oh, I spun out.
Oh no! All right, we're gonna have to explore this and just kind of keep going, keep coming
This
at
is
this another
wonderful.
episode
This is
because yeah,
wonderful,
that's
man.
pretty good.
Oh, who's Boomy? Is Fernando Boomy?
Yes, yes, Fernando Alonso is for it's boomy. Yes, 100%. Just this mad genius who's just really good at being an earthbender, but he bides his time. So
Yeah,
like
like
his time with like
120 years old.
McLaren
Yeah.
and like his time with McLaren and with Alpine and stuff, it was him being trapped in that iron thing, and then he's just waiting for the moment to strike again. Yeah. Um.
Oh man.
Yeah. But anyway. Yeah. So the grass got set on fire.
By the Fire Nation.
During by the Fire Nation during that qualifying sprint, which was another red flag. It's just like, what is happening? I hope we get a solid answer for that because
Hmm.
it's gonna be weird if that just goes unanswered and we're just like, well, that happened. Um, did you see that spin that science that
Oh my
happened with
God.
science though coming out that
Oh my
last
God.
turn?
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that was scary.
Every single spin this weekend was just like, oh, it
Yeah,
was so like terror inducing. I felt in my
dramatic.
gut.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That was intense. He managed to save it though, which was good for him. Um, and yeah, I mean, I remember seeing it live, and I was just like, mm, that's pretty intense. But it looked like he saved the car, and he managed to get back out there, and he ended up qualifying fifth for the sprint. So,
Mm.
but but let's talk about what actually happened in the sprint that really changed everything up, which is our old friend the rain. So the
Oh man.
waterbenders came into
Oh
play
yes.
here.
Yes.
Dude, honestly, we almost had every element. We had we had the Fire Nation burning the
Mm-hmm.
grass.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Waterbenders bringing the rain. And we also had the Air Nomads pushing the wind on different
Mm-hmm.
corners. We were
Yep.
pushing everybody wide.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe I don't know who did
Well, I
where
mean,
did
Earthbenders
yeah,
would probably be like, there are a couple times people went off the track and brought
brought some
some
gravel,
gravel on the track. Yeah.
ripped out
Yeah.
some of the turf. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the whole we
Yeah.
ran the whole gamut of
Yeah.
the Earth Nation or the
No
elemental
one
nations.
no one went full Avatar state, but like
No, no. Well, that was Max. Max was just full Avatar state the whole time, basically. Um, but yeah, no,
um,
but not during the qualifying sprint
hmm
because the sprint qualifying because that rain hit and his Red Bull
Ooh,
was not happy.
not happy. That rear end just kept boop,
Yep.
boop,
I
boop.
mean, nowhere. I was surprised. Like he went off a couple of times, and I was like, "Oh man, like he cannot get a lap together.
hmm
He must not practice in the rain in his simulations. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
his
Maybe
ice
he's like,
racing. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know.
This is
But
why focus on F1, Max. You should stay off of NASCAR trucks.
NASCAR trucks, yeah, where they never rains. Yeah, no, well, honestly, that rain brought some pretty interesting grid for the qualifying.
hmm
But one thing I did want to talk about is what happened between with Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris's lap.
Oh my God,
So
the
that
drama.
was a real trip, right? I was like,
hmm
I was shocked.
hmm
Like I was just like, oh, what? Oh, like
Nani?
it was just like Lewis Hamilton on top. You're like, man, awesome. And then like Lando Norris on top,
Yeah.
cool. And then Lando Norris's life got deleted. And you're like, what? And then it got reinstated. So from what I can tell, apparently under the rules when it comes to a car going off track, right? If you go off track before that lap is completed,
hmm
that lap is does not count, but the subsequent lap also doesn't count
Certain
because
tracks.
because basically the argument is if you go off of track, if you go offline on a circuit, then
hmm
you've gained an advantage
Right.
around that lap. And so like even if you when you start the next lap, like that speed advantage carries through or
hmm
whatever.
Yeah.
And McLaren argued like, "Hey, look at the rain. I mean, yeah, he went into the gravel. He did not gain an advantage at all. Like, why is his second lap also not counting for this?"
hmm
And the FIA was like, you're right." And then they reinstated it.
But it's
Um,
not just that though. It's also the fact that that rule is track to track like specific, right? So
yeah.
like track limits are not enforced like globally. It is locally, right? So like what it looks like at Spa is completely different from what it looks like, or Austria, I should say, because that's
Mhm.
the one that people always like
Oh yeah.
run off track limits. Is different from here in Shanghai. Like that does not exist in the rule book for Shanghai. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Good for Lando Norris. They're putting the that effort forth and
yeah,
kind of fighting for that lap because I mean, hey, you take advantage of the rain when you can, when it's there.
yeah.
I was surprised that nobody tried to put on the full wets because it seemed really, really wet out there, like wet
hmm
enough to where even the inters were not going to be doing enough.
hmm
But nobody tried it. Whatever, they got through. It was right at the end of that session, so I don't think anybody had time. Um,
I'm
but
laughing
yeah, we had
because
a go for it.
I was gonna say I'm laughing because that's a throwback to when Brendan Hartley was the only car that came in on and went on full wets and everyone else was on inters. This was like back in 2018, and
Yeah,
both you and I were like, "What the hell is he doing? Why would you go on full wets, dude?"
yeah,
The next lap comes in, gets inters. It's like, dude, your race is destroyed.
yeah. I
It's a
remember.
race with Toro Rosso.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who they talk about the full wets being completely useless tires.
hmm
Um and I guess I sort of get it because I guess the argument is if you're in a race that you need full wets, you might as well not even race because it's just too much. Um
But then, on the flip side of that, though, like, what's just stop the race then, right? Like,
right,
you should be like, that's why the wets exist, that you
right.
can still race,
So you
right?
can still race, yeah.
hmm
Even if you're kind of slow, like you can
hmm
still sort of do it. I mean, it's really also just to kind of pump out water a lot faster. So
hmm
that's the other kind of end of that coin. But anyway, yeah. So our sprint, we had Lando in first, Lewis Hamilton second, Fernando Alonso third, and then it was
Man,
Max. I mean, yeah, what a lineup, right?
that was amazing. That was a great sprint quali.
Yeah, I was stoked for it. Well, let's talk about the sprint race, Idris. What went down in the sprint race?
So Lando, he is so hungry and so thirsty for this first win, and whether it's a real race or I guess real quote unquote race, full race, or a sprint race, right? Because
Hmm.
his teammate Oscar Piastri, like with the best humor of all time, I love that guy so much. By the way, he's one of the funniest drivers I think we've ever seen on the grid. Um, but he got his first sprint race win last year, right? In his rookie season, right? So it's like, oh man, like Lando's like, bro, I've been trying to get this win for a while. What's going on, McLaren? So he gets the chance, right? He is on pole. He's ready to go. And then they take off. And then your boy Louis Hammy just has a much better start off the line
Hmm.
than him, right?
Yep.
And then
Hmm.
he overtakes, and they're coming into turn one. And Lando's trying to hang on, trying to hold on, and just loses it
Just
and goes
loses
off
it.
the track.
Yep.
And Lewis is just piecing out into the distance. And it was on one hand I was really excited because I was like, "Oh, Lewis, let's do it!"
Yeah, yeah.
But Lando, it made me so sad. I was like, "Oh, Lando!" Like he just, he probably could have been a bit more conservative in his approach there and just, all right, lose the place now. You can get the Mercedes on the next lap or two, right? But this is definitely a lesson he's going to take with him, and yeah, I'm sure he was gutted from that. But
Yeah.
as we see later on in the weekend, he was rewarded. So
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. It was painful to see. I mean, both McLarens got pretty swallowed up there.
yeah.
Um, but also, I mean, watching Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso kind of controlling things from the
Mm,
front, that was really fun. Just like
mm.
two titans duking it out again. It was just like old times. Um,
9 world championships between the top two drivers. Who wins?
who wins? Clash of the Titans. Um,
English, Spanish, paella, spotted dick. Which one?
uh, I know
Choose
this
your
me.
meal.
Choose your meal. Um, yeah, well, I mean, and that was at least until Max just passed everybody, which
Oh
is
yeah.
just
Wah,
it.
wah.
It just honestly, here's the thing though, too. It's just like I remember, what was it? I was listening to Rosberg. So Rosberg was the guest commentator on the international feed,
Hmm.
and during the sprint, he kept talking about how it's like I could tell that he was commentating in a way of like if he was in this position, this is what he would do.
Hmm.
And he kept talking about how like, oh, Lewis wasn't aggressive enough. He didn't do like the aggressive move. He didn't like, he
Hmm.
didn't try to cut him off. Like, oh, you just got to be more aggressive. And I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, I
Hmm.
would imagine from Rosberg's perspective on the outside looking in, like, why wouldn't you just do this? Why would you not just do that? And I think it's kind of hard to consider if you're not in that position actively. But yeah, at the same time, I feel like a lot of these drivers, like I think it's because like the cost cap, and because of the cost cap, and because of how dominant Max is, nobody wants to challenge him, even if they know it's hopeless. Because they're going to ruin their race or like later. I sometimes feel like they got rid of all these driver aids right throughout the
Hmm.
80s and 90s
Yeah.
to like make it so that like the drivers are in more control, right? And there's like
Hmm.
it's more about the drivers. But we're
Man and
getting to this
machine.
point
Yeah.
but we're getting to the point where now strategy and tire management and fuel management is what's
Yeah.
controlling everything.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
if your car can't, if you can't control any of those things, if your team can't control any things in the car, then you're just stuck. The
Right.
driver is just a passenger at that
Yeah.
point. And that's what I think is a big thing of what's killing it. You know what
And
I mean?
and like I think what's cool when you look at the 50s and 60s, right? Before people really understood research and development and how it applies to motorsports, was that everyone for the most part was pretty crappy, right? Like
Mm,
some people had really good engines, right? Some people had really good chassis, and then it was a matter of, okay, who has enough longevity and reliability in their vehicle that they've put together and fielded to win the championship, right? Versus, oh, we have to stop for tires, we have to stop for refueling, all those kinds of things, right? So I think that's kind of like, I say all this to agree with you, right? That I think there is a level of reliability and performance that is just so high, like in today's modern F1, that it has just, yeah, it's we've kind of jumped the shark and have gone over to another element, right? And now
Mhm.
it's a question of whether or not this current entertainment product has the same entertainment value, right? Like
Yeah.
if we, the consumer, like that. Um, so,
Yeah.
some people do, some people don't. So. Oh,
Yeah.
real quick, I wanted to say too about Nico. He honestly, he's given off major Uncle Rico vibes from
Hmm.
Napoleon Dynamite, right? Of just
Yep.
like, oh man, if that were me, I would have been more aggressive right there, man. Just
They put me in
just
the
like
fourth quarter.
right
Would
over
have
those
been state
mountains.
champs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
no doubt in my mind.
I mean, for real though, he really was. Like he kept like, and it was funny, like Crofty kept being like, "Hey, so you gonna come back? You gonna come back and drive?" And he's like, "No, no, I don't want to do it. But if I was there, like
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, but anyway, Max wins the sprint race. All right. And I think he kind of showed a little preview of what ended up happening with the actual race. But
Mm.
before we get to that,
Oh, oh,
let's talk about quali. Um, um,
yeah.
yeah, like I mean, I guess we always expect Max is going to be at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for most races, when he's not, it's always a shocker, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like the best of the rest, who was going to get it, and that was a pretty intense qualifying session.
Oh, dude.
So yeah,
Dude, when we get to the end of Q3, right? Big shock was that Hamilton didn't even make it to Q2.
yeah,
So that was kind of the
right.
one. Got beaten by an Alpine, bro. Like both
Hmm.
Alpines. Both. This
Hmm.
is Ocon who cheers when we get into Q2. Ocon.
Right,
Ocon.
right.
And it was just wild to see that. But anyway, so he doesn't make it in, right? Bottas is like driving the hell out of that car. It's like, yes, finally, finally, because people are slandering my boy Valtteri's name. I
Hmm.
don't like it. I don't like it. I've loved
Right,
Valtteri since the beginning, since
right.
Williams days. Um, and just awesome. He's a great driver.
Hmm.
But we get to the end of Q3, and then we see Alonso get P2, right? Actually, yeah, this was quali, right? It was. Am I
Hmm.
mixing up quali and sprint quali? Because this is what happens during those weekends. I get things confused. No, I think it was quali. Yeah, so P2 Alonso, and then I think it was Sainz, and then Leclerc, and then Perez, and then Norris, and then
Hmm.
Piastri, or Piastri and Norris are flipped, right? But
Yeah,
it was bonkers just
yeah.
how you didn't know who was going to be P2, right? I mean, Max had already
Hmm.
come and done his, he set his time, whatever. It was just like, all right, who's going to be P2, right? Who's a real
Right,
P1 effectively, right?
right.
And it was just so nail biting, and that was
Hmm.
fun. Like that's what makes qualifying so fun to watch. Like,
Right,
because everyone's putting it all on the line right there, right? Like
right.
you're not influenced by all these weird things going on the track, like a little bit, right? Like you have weather, you have like, oh, you released me into the pack, all that kind of stuff. But it's really
Hmm.
like man machine in the track, right? And
Hmm.
it's just beautiful. That was a
You know,
great end to quali.
one thing I wish F1 would implement. So I was also watching the Long Beach Grand Prix and IndyCar was this week, right?
Yes,
And I was
yes.
watching qualifying for that. They do their qualifying a bit different, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
have like different heats. You have the fast six from each heat, then
Mm-hmm.
competes and kind of goes up. But one thing that they do that I really like is they show the real time deficit happening.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not by sector. It's like as they're going, if they start to trend up or trend down, it will shift like a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think would make, I mean, because like right, like really all we do in F1 is you get three sections, right?
Great, the
Like
sectors,
first
right?
sector, two
Mm-hmm.
sector, three sector, and like that's how they divide like the speeds going up.
Yeah.
But like there's always that anticipation of like where are they? Where are they? Are they going to do faster? Are they going to do
Mm-hmm.
not? And
Mm-hmm.
then like so be able to see that in real time would be
Yeah.
kind of, it would be pretty
Yeah.
fantastic. I would be into that.
Formula E does that, right? And that's what makes
They
it
do,
really fun.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love seeing that because right, you see the gap, and you're like, oh man, this guy just like Buemi, he just ate up a lot of time there. That's awesome. Like, let's
Hmm.
see if he can do it. I
Right.
mean, and that's an easy graphic for them to do, honestly. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
speaking of which, short thing, I want to give some kudos to the graphics team within from Liberty Media. They're adding in some really useful information, right? Like
Mhm.
for me, like for us, we've been watching F1 for so long that like I know the numbers, I know the drivers' numbers, I know their teams, I know their cars, right? So
Mhm.
if I see someone coming down and they're, it's one of the views where you're watching and the car's coming towards you, and they make a right turn or a left turn, right? And it's just like they're all driving by, and you're like, okay, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now they're like superimposing like the driver's initials over the top of the car, so that's
Mm-hmm.
really helpful for that's a good driver aid. That is
Right.
excellent, perfect.
Yeah.
Add stuff like that. That's great.
Yeah, that's the stuff I want to see. Um, I wasn't a huge. You know what they need to bring back though too.
Hmm.
Remember a few years ago when they had the thermal cameras on the F1 cars,
Oh,
and you would see like the car in front of them, their tires heating up or cooling down.
they only
You
did it a
remember
few
that?
times. They only did it a few times. That
They
wasn't.
only did it a few times.
Yeah, yeah. The one they did away with was the tire life one that I thought was interesting.
Mm,
Um, but I think it's also kind of I think it's hard for them to predict it based on data. I don't know where they're pulling their data from. Maybe they're just pulling it live from the teams for them to actually predict that. But yeah, I do remember the thermal cam. That was cool when they did show it.
that was really cool to see that live, like the heat from the brakes lighting
Yeah.
up when they were braking, or exhaust from the engine or something. That was really cool to
Mm,
see. I wish they would bring stuff like that back.
mm.
Um, I still, it's funny, isn't it funny how we've just gotten used to like the infographic going over the halo
Yeah, I love it.
car now.
It's
Like
beautiful.
it used to just be a little thing in the corner. Now it's like over the whole, which I mean, it's like, hey, that's a good effective way of using that space, like
Exactly.
during the telecast. So I ain't mad at it.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I could tell, yeah, Liberty Media was stepping things up. I did appreciate that the same as you. That was
Hmm.
really nice to be able to see, especially when they're coming down the long straight. You're like, okay, who
Yeah,
is it? Who is it? Who
yeah.
is it? Yeah, that was really nice.
And then you look off in the distance and you're like, okay, there's Stroll. Yeah. Okay.
There's
Yeah.
okay, well, let's get to the race then. Obviously Max P1, you had Perez P2, and then the McLarens were close behind. Um, so well, let's go team by team then. So let's
Hmm.
just start with Red Bull. Obviously Max was in the Avatar state pretty much the whole time, despite having like two safety car interventions
Hmm.
and like virtual safety car interventions. He would just literally in two turns he would just be down the road multiple
Yeah.
seconds, like just no effort. Like I
Yeah.
mean like this is just at this point it's just like okay, yeah. Like I'm sure for if you're a diehard Max fan, I mean, how sustainable is that? You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I don't know. It's like I'm trying to cast myself back to the Mercedes dominance era.
Hmm.
And the thing is, uh, it was definitely more interesting when it was Hamilton versus Rosberg, right? Because like Bottas was a great teammate to Hamilton, but he never really put up too much of a fight versus
Hmm.
Hamilton. Hamilton was just always just winning everything, and it was just cool to see that it's kind of accomplishment, and it just got to a point where like let's get that seventh.
Hmm.
Um, but um, but yeah, no, with Max, it just feels like he's a one man team. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
and Perez is quick and Perez does what he can and he still gets on the podium almost every single time.
Hmm.
Like, looking like his career is going to be, like, looking back, like, he's going to have a really good career to
Yeah.
be proud of.
Yeah.
He just needs to get a few more wins in there,
Hmm.
So who knows? I mean, once again, like the wheel is churning at the Red Bull. The circus ring is going around. Apparently, I heard in the news that they are in contract talks with Carlos, but Carlos apparently has an offer from Audi that is so lucrative that Red Bull can't match it. That's at least according to
Whoa.
Helmut Marko. So Carlos has to decide, where does he go? Does he go with the money, or does he go with a team that's been really successful for a really, really long
Mm.
time? But also, like, hey, you got the regulation changes again.
Yeah.
That could
Things will
throw a
switch up
wrench. You don't know.
big
It's
time.
hard to tell. Um, but yeah, Max's pace was just too fast. He was like 6 tenths per lap up on
Yeah.
Checo the entire
Yeah.
race. So there was
Just
just nobody was touching him.
you can't.
Nobody
Yeah,
was
you can't
touching him.
compete with that. Yeah.
Um,
So
but yeah,
moving on to the Ferraris though, I was really surprised. They were just not even there this weekend. They were too busy scrapping with one another.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I love the note that we have written down here that Charles looks like Charles punching back a bit, and that's right. I think Charles really tired of like the disrespect and slander on his name. People are like, oh man, he's too busy making his ice cream. He's too busy making music and playing piano and not doing anything. No, no, no. He's like, no. Let me tell you what we do in Monaco, how we run. right?
Right.
He's
Yeah,
saying gang
that's
gang.
right.
Things are serious in Monaco,
That's
right?
right.
So he's out here just letting people know he still got it and that
Hmm.
he is the OG at Ferrari, not Sainz, not Louis
Right.
Hammy when he joins, that it's
Right.
Charles Leclerc's team. That's what he's trying to
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
And it was
No, that's
fun. I
true.
mean, it was fun to watch them compete. I think towards the end, Leclerc was able to pull it out over Sainz and ended up in fourth place. And actually like 10 seconds ahead of Sainz too. So,
Hmm.
um, good for him. He made a good standing. Got some good points. Both he and Sainz, I think, have a lot to be proud of today. Ferrari, they did not have a Mamma Mia Scuderia moment. It's been a
No.
little while, and it's good. I think they're
Hmm.
cleaning up shop because they know, Sir Hamilton is joining up next year, and
Yeah.
royalty demands certain things, right?
Yeah. They got to dust off all the knickknacks. They
Yeah,
got to roll out the carpet. Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
yeah.
Um, there are some other organizations that I wish would do the same. But we'll get to that. Um, but
Tell
but yeah,
tell me you're a Lance Stroll fan without telling me you're a Lance Stroll fan.
right. Um, let's talk about well, more like a Lance Stroll hater. Let's
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
true.
McLaren.
The Meccas.
Really, really great result for
Mm-hmm.
Norris. Norris was
Mm-hmm.
flying. I mean, flying in the perspective of Max. Like, if Max was going at the same pace that Checo was going, then Norris probably would have won that Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, really great effort for Norris.
Yeah.
I think Piastri was a little on the back foot, and I think it's because he's never driven here before. So, he Nico Rosberg talked about
Yeah.
this track being all about tire strategy, and if you don't focus on that or like conserving your tires, and if you don't
Mm-hmm.
focus on that, then you'll kind of lose out. So I think the speculation was that Norris was or Piastri was
Yeah.
a little rougher on his tires and just wasn't
Piastri.
managing them there as well. But yeah, Norris
Yeah.
had some great pit strategy. He bided his time, and they got the good result. And two safety cars definitely helped. So
Well, I mean, actually, speaking of safety car, I mean, the reason Piastri just did not finish as high as he should have is
Mhm.
because he got yeeted, man. Like he sustained damage from that whole concertina effect that we're
Oh,
talking about. Yeah,
right,
he had some
right,
floor damage. He had or rear damage where like one of the rear like diffuser flaps was just like
right.
like
Let's talk about that then really quick.
yeah.
So this was first safety car, right? First safety car.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and this was caused because Bottas's car was off the track. It was stuck in gear. It was crazy watching all of them trying to rock the car to move it. I'm just like, man, you're gonna break that gearbox. Um, but yeah, so they were all packed up, coming down the start finish straight. Safety car was coming in, and Max chose that place to kind of take off down the road. And at first there was speculation that Fernando Alonso caused the problem because he kind of locked up coming into that turn.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is he just went straight on. So he
Right.
didn't he didn't actually like stop. Like he
Right.
locked up, but he just went straight forward. He
Right.
didn't he wasn't slowing down any further. He just like his car kept the momentum, so it locked up. Um and what happened was that everybody behind suddenly sort of reacted to that, and they were all, but the thing is they were all really closely bunched up.
Right.
Like they were all just really tense and ready to go. And essentially Danny Ricciardo was slowing down. He just managed to get it stopped enough to stop in front of Piastri
Mm-hmm.
without touching him.
Yeah.
And then freaking Lance Stroll just comes yeeting freaking the rear of Ricardo's car into the air, and then
Mm-hmm.
bumping him into Piastri.
Right.
And Ricardo's car came down onto Lance Stroll's nose, broke Ricardo's diffuser,
And messed up his
um,
floor.
and messed up his floor.
Yeah.
And so Ricardo ended up having to retire that race.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a couple of turns later, Yuki Tsunoda got taken out by Kevin
Oh
Magnussen
my God.
for
Oh
no
my God.
reason, just coming out of the turn, just
Yeah.
taking him out. Um, but I think what really got me frustrated, and it got Danny Ricciardo frustrated, was
Mm.
that Lance Stroll just
Mm.
he called him an idiot and blamed Danny Ricciardo he basically claimed that Ricciardo brake checked him,
Yeah.
and then that's why he hit him. And then Danny Ricciardo like looked on the video, like the footage, like
Yeah.
you can watch the footage of
Stroll's
this
on
happening.
board.
Stroll's on board, he wasn't even looking ahead of him. He was looking at the apex.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wasn't paying attention to what was happening in front of him. And
Yeah.
so he crashed.
Yeah.
And so like Danny Ricciardo was mad enough that he literally like he said F you, F this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if Danny Ricciardo
Yep.
gets mad at you enough to say that, like
Yeah.
you've really
Yeah. Because I think Danny Rick is one of those people who like when he's at fault, he'll admit it. He'll own up to it, right?
yeah.
As any person should, right? That's like just having integrity and having like it's common courtesy, right? And also he's willing to take someone on the chin, right? But to like insult him while claiming no responsibility for it, and this is from Stroll's perspective, that's insanity, dude. Insanity.
Yeah. I don't think Stroll can handle adrenaline. I think that
You know,
when he's pumping up with adrenaline, he gets
hmm
real nasty.
yeah.
Um
Yeah, yes, very. And think about what he did to his trainer, right? Just
mhm,
shoved his trainer in the wall. Think about
yeah.
when he bended. Oh, what was it? Was it Saudi where he drove in the barriers, right? And then like
Uh-huh.
his car
Oh yeah.
stopped, and they're like, "Oh, hey, are you okay? Did you hit a wall?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm in the wall, man. Like, look at the camera. Like,
Yeah.
dude, bro,
Yeah.
it's just your team just trying to show some kind of concern for you, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of over him,
Um
honestly, bro. Like, just
yeah. Yeah.
he just feels
Well, and
entitled.
yeah, well, and then seriously, like you every single time you're watching Fernando Alonso in like the top 5, and then where's Lance Stroll? Oh, he's like out of the points.
Yeah,
And it's just like you can't we've said it a billion times that
yeah.
this horse has been beaten so much that like it's probably you're probably hearing the rattling bones as we beat it because it's already decayed that much from beating this dead horse.
I was gonna say you
But
can tell that it was a horse at this point. Like
can
that's what
you
it
tell
feels
it was
like.
a horse? I don't know if you can tell it was a horse because we've beaten this dead horse so much. Stroll needs to leave. I do not think that there has ever been in the history of this sport a race seat that has been held up this badly for a driver that should deserve to have it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like he is in a seat. Like I mean, like think about like they kept him over Perez, who won a race for them.
Yep. Yep.
I
Paris. If
mean,
Paris were at Aston Martin, where Stroll's seat is right now,
oh,
Man, Aston Martin would be a force to be reckoned with, man.
they would
That would be a force to
I
be reckoned
guarantee
with.
you they would be like a solid second or third in the constructors every single
That's
year.
I'm with you there. Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
they definitely would have had it last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. I really don't know. I mean, and honestly, like, we talk about VCarb, they had a really poor race, poor Danny Ricciardo getting punted. He had a
Yeah.
decent race going.
Same with Yuki, man. It wasn't like to no fault of their own. And you get two V carbs at DNF, which now,
Yeah.
by the way, they officially like F1 broadcast was like, oh, we're gonna call them V carb. They've asked to be called V carb. It's like, yes, thank God. That's what
Yes.
everyone else has been calling them. Why RB? It's stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's right.
yeah. But yeah,
We
it
called it.
sucks. It's frustrating.
Yeah, no, it's really frustrating. One little blip of light though was that the Sauber team actually apart from Bottas getting the retirement, I
Oh.
think they overall had a pretty fun weekend. Bottas getting into Q3,
Mm,
which is fantastic
mm,
to see.
mwah,
Zhou
mwah.
Guan Yu getting in. He had a pretty good qualifying showing in the sprint quali.
Mhm.
And he had a decent race. He finished. Did you see that they had him pull up his car onto the
Yes,
grid?
loved it.
To show off. Like that was really nice. I mean, what a great moment
That
for him.
that is a tradition that I think should continue. It was just beautiful to see. And like you can see, he was crying, right? And I get it, right? Like you are the sole representative of your country in this sport, right? In the
Yeah.
history of the sport. Like, bro, that means so much, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
looking it up too, yeah, he qualified he was 10th on the grid for the sprint, right?
hmm
And for qualifying, I think he was let's look it up real quick. He ended up P16. But that's the best the Sauber can do, right? Unless you're
Yeah. I
Bottas.
mean, I'm not expecting
Yeah,
huge things from Sauber, but
yeah, yeah,
um, but yeah, no. I mean, good for Zhou Guan
yeah.
Yu. I mean, he doesn't really get too much opportunity to shine, and so this was his moment, and I'm glad he got it.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
Yep.
Well, let's see. What happened with Alpine? Well, Gasly hit one of his crew members. Um, and
Oh my God, dude.
and then outside of that, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
I think Ocon. People were complaining at Ocon swerving on the straights, which I'm not surprised.
Hmm.
They just yeah, they're just continuing to just kind of fumble over and over and over again, not really showing much promise, not really showing many
Yeah.
results.
To be fair,
Um,
I think they've made incremental improvements since the start of the season.
uh-huh.
Like the performance is better, but yeah, they're not where they need to be or used to be. They were the fourth best team on the grid, right? Like you could
Right,
expect them on any given day to come in P7, P8, right?
right.
So they're just not, or was it fifth best team? It might have been fifth best team a couple years ago, but like they
Yeah,
just they need to return to that.
right. Um, well, speaking of the underdog teams though, Haas, uh Hulkenberg had,
Hulkenberg, Hulkenberg.
Hulkenberg. He man, he was really actually putting up some fights out there.
Hmm.
Um I think Hulkenberg is now at this point where I mean, obviously he's got something to prove.
Hmm.
He's got to show that he earning that spot in that new Audi team. Um and honestly, at this point it's just like, say what you will with Hulkenberg, like he's not really the greatest dude, but I think Hulkenberg is at least a pretty professional. I think he takes his work serious
Oh,
pretty seriously.
absolutely,
He's
absolutely.
definitely a professional driver. I think he knows how to do it. He knows how to drive. I mean, he's had so many race starts at this point.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, he was throwing some elbows out.
Hmm.
He was scrapping with Sainz. But even Magnussen at one point was scrapping with, was it Lance Stroll? It was Lance Stroll and Magnussen
Yup.
were scrapping for 16th like it was a
It
race
was,
victory.
yeah,
And
was it
everyone was getting
16th?
so excited.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
16th. Yeah, because three people had retired from the race.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
was hilarious. And I was just like, I was watching to see, I'm like, is Lance gonna like get impatient and just like run into him? Like, are they gonna
right.
race fair? Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
they got through cleanly, but yeah, there was Haas was kind of showing like they're here to put up some fight.
Hmm.
It definitely feels different. It's a different feeling Haas now that Gunther's not there. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
it feels different. And
he
then maybe
was.
they just got a different attitude,
Yeah,
who knows?
he was definitely a lightning rod for the energy of that team for sure. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he kind of and I don't mean this in a negative way, but he definitely sucked up a lot of the oxygen in the room, right? Just because of his
Yes.
DTS persona, right? For
Yeah.
better or worse.
Right.
And honestly, it's nice probably for the team that he's not there for them to have this pressure of like, oh, we're the Haas team, we're the Vankas, the fucking Vankas team, right? Like
Yeah.
remove
Right.
that pressure, those expectations,
Hmm.
and they're allowed to kind of flourish a bit, and you can kind of see
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're starting to put their elbows out. They're trying to be taken a little bit more seriously as a team, I think. And
Mm.
I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I would say driving away from the Drive to Survive fandom is and freedom or notoriety, if you will,
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
is I think what needs to be
Infamy,
done. So,
yeah,
um, so yeah,
yeah.
um, yeah. Not too much else to say. I guess
Mhm.
Max Scott's they was their it was their 100th pole position, right? That they got, or was it their? It wasn't a thousand. No, it wasn't 1,000th. Um, they had a record milestone for pole position, and then they ended up winning that race.
Mhm.
Max got
Yeah,
the record. He matched the record with Mika Hakkinen for the first 5 races in the season,
yeah.
getting all the poles for
99.
all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, once again another weekend of historical,
Historical
significance for Red
accolades.
Bull. Um but yeah, I mean, every watching this sport now, every single race, it's just the ever present off season or behind the scenes drama is ever so billowing there in the background.
Mhm.
It's a weird season, man. So far, it's this
Yeah.
season feels really strange. Um, but let's do our podium vibe. Let's do our podium vibe check. I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah.
What's the vibes?
The
What are your
vibes, yo, the
yeah, what are
vibes,
your
the vibes are given. This was a really fun race, and as I know, I always complain about like the number of events that we need to watch for a sprint race weekend because there's so many things, right? There was a lot of good action here, right? It
Mhm.
was great to see a return to a beloved track from the calendar.
Mhm.
It was fun. I think the racing was really good. There was some great overtaking that was occurring. Also, man, it's a long track. I forgot how long that track is.
Yeah,
Right.
it's long.
But yeah, it was fun. I think um just adding in the elements of the rain, right? On top of like we painted the track versus actually having it resurfaced, was an extra variable that just shook things up, right? And
Mm.
just to see how qualifying that fight for a second position after Max went was just so fun. And again, cements to me why qualifying is really the best event of the weekend. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, shout out to everyone, specifically Norris. Um, nailed it. I can't believe he made a bet against himself too. But overall, really fun race weekend. I think this actually might have been like the most complete package type of race weekend. Um, I think yeah, this is probably the best race weekend of the season so far, in my opinion.
Mm.
It had everything.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I would say like the safety car interventions, if they didn't happen, it would have been a much more boring race.
Sure.
Um, but but yeah, lots of good racing, lots of good interesting passes. Having Nico Rosberg on as one of the commentators, I have some thoughts about it. um, on the one hand, it's like, he does that thing where he's just like, yeah, like he's doing the Uncle Rico vibes, but at the same time, like he was giving some pretty good insight for stuff.
Sure.
Talking about like things as they happen, like, oh, like, yep, he lost his tires, like he doesn't have any life left in him, or like, like giving some very accurate commentary from a driver's and like kind of strategy
Hmm.
perspective was really cool. And it's the sort of thing I want to see drivers do. It's just yeah, it's just, I think you have to get the driver with the right personality to come in and
Hmm.
do that. I'm pretty sure Martin Brundle loves the sound of his own voice, which is why he's really good at, showing up and doing that. But Martin Brundle's gotten to the point where it's like, his insights are there, but like they're not as intense or not as like relevant as they could be if it was like a newer driver like showing up. That's why like Julian Palmer is a cool person to have. It's awesome to have like
Hmm.
Haroon Chanduk there. I'm just trying to think of who else, like who could retire from like this season, or like these like bit of drivers now
Hmm.
that would offer some really good commentary.
Oh,
Um,
Fernando and Lewis easily would be the best two,
I
but
mean
they don't
maybe,
have
but
like
like
the personality for it. Actually, I think
that's what I
Fernando would be
mean.
hilarious. Could you imagine? He's like,
He
oh,
would
what was
be
that? Too
hilarious.
aggressive right there.
He would be hilarious, but I don't know if it would be the best commentary level,
Mm,
because yeah, part of me thinks like somebody like honestly, like Hulkenberg wouldn't be a terrible idea. Like he would
mm.
probably have he's got a lot of races under his belt. Um
Magnussen would be good. I think he has like the delivery to do it. You know what I mean?
Maybe Magnussen feels a little soft spoken though. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Like he doesn't seem like somebody who'd want to sit and talk, during a whole race.
hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to think about that. Danny Ricardo would be terrible because he'd just be cracking jokes the whole
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe Checo. Checo wouldn't be too bad. I feel yeah, I think this season's getting weird. But it was really nice to see the Chinese track again, because the ghost of Multi 21 was coming back at me a little bit from the Vettel versus Weber season. So um, it was a fun track to see again. I forgot how winding those first set of turns are. It's a
Hmm.
really unique track. So
Yeah.
yeah, glad to see it back. But I really do hope we get down to this grass being set on fire. I really want to have a definitive answer about that. I want to know what happened. I don't want this
A
to be
murder
another like
mystery.
mystery. Yeah, it's like that diamond heist thing from the Monaco Grand Prix in like what 2005 or something, like where it's just
Oh
nobody knows
yes.
what happened with
Oh,
it. It's a mystery. Like, is this gonna be like? I don't
dude.
want this
Yeah.
to be that. I want an
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to know.
So we need to know what happens to the grass. Actually,
Uh,
it's appropriate though because it was 420 just a couple of days ago. So maybe that was the reference. Maybe that was their little tribute.
even the grass is like light up.
They're like, blaze it.
Asada.
So,
Asada. Asada. Kane asada.
Carne asada.
All right, hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X Twitter at F1RFoff. Email us at F1RFoffpodcast@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. That really helps us a lot. Helps us out a lot. Sheesh. Be sure to share with family and friends. And Asada.
Asada.
I've just had Asada display.
Asada. See, the Zoom doesn't do anything when I give that sign
Asada.
though. Asada. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody.
Peace. Asada.
Asada.